what recommendations do you have for people who are, I know this is going to differ depending on where the person's located, but if you're trying to impress somebody on a date and exude confidence, what kind of outfit goes with that?
So the biggest thing that I would say is wear something. Obviously, it needs to be, context appropriate for what it is that you're doing on the date and where you live, time of year and all of that. But the biggest thing that I would say is wear something that makes you feel like you're on fire, makes you feel like you're the best version of yourself. Sadly, what a lot of men do is when they're getting ready to go out on a date, they put on something that part of their brain goes, this looks good and I should feel good in it. But then the other part feels really self-conscious. Am I trying too hard? Does this not fit right? Is this too ostentatious? Am I calling for too much attention? And so they have this internal battle that's happening subconsciously the whole time. And remove that. Don't wear something that a date is the wrong time to experiment with something new. You should already be really comfortable in what you're wearing so that it almost feels like you're putting on a social version or an aesthetic version of what your battle armor is, so that you can go in and you can be totally mentally and emotionally freed up to focus on what you're doing on the date, as opposed to that nagging in the back of your head the whole time that you're out there.
Okay. That makes sense. Have you seen what kind of different style can make to somebody's love life? Like, have you seen somebody without like losing weight, say, with just changing how they dress? Have you seen what difference that can make?
It's massive, especially for married men. It's huge for guys that are in the dating market. A lot of my clients are kind of young guys that work in the tech space, and for them to not only see themselves as now multidimensional, but actually carry themselves with some level of confidence, it makes dating so much easier. But especially for men that are married and they've been in a relationship for a long time, because your wife doesn't want to dress you. She doesn't want to see you as another one of the kids that she has to now think about this and she has to choose your clothes. I mean, it's so emasculating and it kills the respect that she can have for you. She wants you to look good. And that's why she chooses to dress you, because dressing you is better than you looking like garbage. But what's even better is if you can dress yourself in a way that looks attractive and it looks dignified and it looks self-respecting. And she knows that who she knows on the inside, this person that she's in love with, this person that she spent all these years with, that's what she sees when she sees, she posts you up on social media, or that's what she sees when you guys go do family photos for that year, or whatever it is that you kind of get these versions of it, that she's proud to have you to be on your arm when you go out on a date, or when you go out, with friends in the neighborhood, or you go grab drinks and she's not embarrassed that you're saying. It changes her whole perception of you, your respectability, your own sense of self. And it's massive.
Okay. That was good. So no square-toed shoes.
No square toe. We'll just go back to that one.
Yeah. I think that's really important, because I have friends too that will help their significant other to dress, but it's entirely because they're like, you cannot wear that. You cannot wear that and be seen with me. Wear this instead. Right. But that's a pretty low bar. You're like aiming for something a bit higher up.
Exactly. Well, and a big part of it too is that women and men have different aesthetic goals. When we get dressed, the things that you want to convey with your clothing and with your style are very different than the things that I want to convey. And it becomes really easy to see, especially older men. If you ever see an older guy that's in like his 50s and he looks like he's trying to dress like he's 18 or he's in his mid 20s, it's because his wife is dressing him. Because for her, being able to signal things like youth or maintain fertility or trendiness or relevance, those are good from a female perspective. But from a male perspective, that makes you look like you're denying, like you haven't accomplished anything over the last 20, 30 years. And so you're still trying to hold on to all this untested potential, as opposed to, no, I've earned some status and I've made some moves, and I've attained a certain level of credibility and a certain level of status within my life. And I want to dress in a way that symbolizes that. And so that's one of the biggest differences in the way that men and women dress. And another reason why you shouldn't let most women dress you.
Oh, that's really good advice. Do you think there's a way for people who are younger? So say you're younger at a job, is there a benefit in dressing like some of the older people?
Only if you've earned some level of status. This is why you can get, I'm going to pick on these guys because it's so obvious, but you get like the college Republicans that they dress up in their suits and they just look so dorky in the way that they do it. And it's because there's this disparity between how young and untested, how they don't have any credibility, they don't have any experience, they don't have any mastery. but the suit still, because we as a culture are not so far removed that it doesn't have any symbolism to us, it still represents that. And so it's basically, I'm relying on my clothing to signal something that isn't actually consistent with who I am. And so the easiest way for young guys to be able to dress well in a work environment is to not dress up more formally, or to not emulate the guys that are at the absolute like top of the echelon, but dress like everybody else that's in your same kind of tier, but make sure your stuff fits better, focus on simpler colors, and make sure that you buy higher quality versions of it. Because even though people won't be able to quantify the difference between like a $20 shirt that you picked up at a department store and a $100 custom shirt, they will see the difference, even if they can't pinpoint what it is. And you will be seen as somebody who still is young and understands his position, but has potential and is doing more than everybody else around him. And so it becomes this very subtle way of communicating that to the people at work.
Okay. So be more subtle. Just be high quality. Okay. That's good advice.
Yep.
How do you do this on a lower budget? How do you look good on a lower budget?
The biggest thing is it's still possible, but you just have to focus on keeping things simple and keeping things that fit well while still sending the right signals depending on where you are and what you do. A lot of guys, one of the biggest mistakes that beginners make when they start trying to dress better is they associate dressing better with dressing more formally. So, if everybody at work is in jeans and a t-shirt, then I'm going to show up in slacks and a button-up shirt. You don't dress more formally. You stay at the same level of formality as everybody else. They focus a lot on color, where I have to have all this new color to be able to bring in because then I stand out and I look different. Or they focus on pattern, which is, the number of guys who I know that resent the idea of wearing just like a plain white or a plain blue shirt to work, whether that's a t-shirt or a polo or a button shirt. They hate it because then that feels so conformist. It feels so small. And so they end up wearing a patterned shirt, and they don't ever pay attention and look around them and realize that everybody else is also wearing patterned shirts because they're trying to stand out. And so ignore formality, ignore color, ignore pattern, focus on fit, focus on quality to the best that you can afford, and then focus on simplicity, because you want your clothing to be the frame of the painting. And you're the painting itself. You're what people are paying attention to. Whereas too many guys become the mannequin for the clothing, and they're all about showcasing the clothes instead of it going the right way. Okay.
What are your favorite, for lack of a better term, lower end, cheaper clothing brands?
Okay. So here in the States, honestly, you can do pretty well, even if you go shop at somewhere like Target. They're Goodfellow & Co. They're like kind of house line. They do a pretty good job as far as fit and keeping things simple and keeping things relevant without either being too trendy or too outdated. They do a good job. If you're younger, then you can have some luck at H&M, but it's really hard to avoid all the kind of crazy out there, egregious stuff. And then same thing with places like Zara, where avoid like the hyper skinny fits or the really ostentatious stuff, but you can find good looking stuff at those places and do it for relatively cheap. Also, take advantage of outlets. Go to the J. Crew outlet, go to Banana Republic outlet, go to the Polo outlet, and you can do really well on a pretty good budget with brands like that too. Okay. What about shoes? Shoes, you can't do it cheap and do it well. You got to invest in it.